Over the past decade, I've spoken with hundreds of franchise owners, and some did very well, some did okay, and some lost everything. Why is that? And who is not a good candidate to buy a franchise? We'll look at that today on Franchise City. Need help finding a franchise? Don't go direct. Always call Franchise City brokers to help find the best franchise for you. So the number 7 reason you should not buy a franchise, and this sounds strange, but if you are an entrepreneur or an innovator at heart, franchising has very specific systems and processes that you are going to need to follow. The system is the reason you paid a lot of money to buy the franchise. So if you have the type of personality that always wants to change things, always wants to tinker and try and improve things and how they're run, owning a franchise is going to be very frustrating for you, and frustrated people don't generally make a lot of money. If you buy a franchise, you need to be 100% committed to do the things exactly as they are outlined in your operations manual, even if you think you could do better. And number 6, you think franchising is easy. It actually isn't. Some aspects, yes, may be easier than starting a business from scratch, but running a franchise is still a lot of work. People who go into a franchise thinking it's going to be easier than a job or easier than running a business, they often get overwhelmed and they can do poorly. If someone is selling you a franchise and they're telling you how easy it is to operate, that should be a red flag for you. And as part of your due diligence, you should always speak with franchise owners and get their feedback directly. Number 5 reason you should not buy a franchise: you are an emotional decision maker. Some people, this is just the way that our brains are laid out, they make decisions based on data and facts, while others are more emotionally driven. Now, unfortunately, emotional buyers often gravitate towards certain businesses, and often for the wrong reasons. The happy coffee shop vision, the frozen yogurt fantasy, the pet shop dream. And not that these businesses can't do well in the right environment, but emotional buyers often ignore any negative data that's to the contrary of these visions because they don't want to be pulled away from this fantasy. Coffee shop, high competition and failure rates, and endless employee attrition. Pet franchises often involve more sales and social networking than being around pets for the owner. Some franchises in less glamorous sectors can actually earn a lot more money. And that's a good segue to our number 4 here. Do not buy a franchise if your skills are not suited to their operational model. And this is very important. Some franchises need good managers. Fast food, for example, you need to be able to work with lots of different personalities. You have to not get annoyed easily and be continually hiring and firing pretty much forever. B2B franchises, that's a completely different model. It involves selling to other businesses and networking with other businesses. Cleaning franchises, they often require you to go out and do estimates. It's not about cleaning at all for the owner. So be honest about your abilities. Don't just assume you'll be a superstar in this environment, as that can be a costly mistake. The most important part of buying a franchise is matching your skills, your local market demand, all those other unique variables to the right franchise. If you need help with that, call Franchise City. Buying based on a name. It's Subway, it's 7-Eleven, it's Wendy's. They are huge names, so it must be a good opportunity. So many people just buy a name because they're familiar with it. This is called familiarity bias, and it's the way human brains work. It's another mental mistake most people are programmed to make. If you think the bigger a franchise, the lower the failure rate, that's absolutely not always the case. So go outside the scope of these massive names and see what else is out there. You might be surprised. Number 2 is buying into the hype. We've covered this before on the channel, how wrong these industry top lists and awards lists often are. And many of these awards lists are simply bought and paid for. You can buy a spot on these lists. Even the Franchise 500, probably the best known list out there, is highly inaccurate. We did a video on that. I'll place a link to that above. Do not ever assume because some random website or even a well-known awards platform suggests a franchise, that means that it is good. We demonstrated in that video how many of them are actually terrible. And that goes double for the veteran or first responders list. Most of those are misleading or shady as well. Last but not least, Do not buy a franchise if you are undercapitalized. This is very important. When you look at a franchise, the company is going to send you an FDD, or a franchise disclosure document. In that disclosure, it's going to show you everything you need to invest in, including supplies, materials, rent, vehicles, etc., as well as showing you approximately how much all of these things will cost. Now, in most cases, they include 3 months of working capital. That's kind of the industry standard, which many buyers assume is likely going to be the break-even point or around when they'll reach profitability. Absolutely not true. In fact, many franchises can take 1 year or longer before seeing any profit. So don't use this 3-month number as a maximum, or you could run out of money. Now, the problem is you can't even ask the franchise company that question, how long to break even, because legally they can't discuss any financial information unless they have disclosed it specifically in their disclosure. Now, franchise owners, however, are not bound by that same law, so it's a good idea to ask them about their experience regarding time to ROI. We actually have a list of really important questions to ask both the franchise companies and franchise owners in our free library. It doesn't cost anything, of tools, a lot of other stuff in there. So always call Franchise City before you buy. Completely free service. I'll place details above and below our 200 plus video franchise education playlist. Thanks very much for watching.